All right, folks, got an awesome show for you today. I have SG Anon joining us. We're going to war game the battlefront. You know, you all enjoy this. I enjoy it. It's great to get his perception on everything from his vantage point of the battlefield. Folks, hit the notification button. Hit the notification button, baby. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, Venmo. If you appreciate me, I appreciate you. It's a Christmas season. 𝗬-ROD 1977, 𝗬-ROD 1977. Also, when the lights go out on Amazon, it's a good Christmas gift. If you want to learn a little bit about my fucked up life, when the lights go out, my memoir. Also, the Mexican Mix, my mama's book. It's a package deal right here. Also on Amazon. Please leave an honest review. That's all we care about. Honesty's best. Noble Gold. You got to get your gold and silver, folks. It is skyrocketing, and now's the time to get it. As we wrap up 2025, one thing's clear. Uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. I would say so. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't the plan. It's a gamble. That's why Noble Gold Investments helps Americans protect what they built with real gold and silver that hold value when everything else feels uncertain. Folks, gold's going up, silver's going up. It's not because it's going up, it's because the dollar's losing its value. So get gold and silver now. It's still not too late. So this holiday season, remember, the best gift you can give your family isn't under the tree. It's a peace of mind. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. Noblegoldinvestments.com. Noblegoldinvestments.com, folks. I am good friends with Colin Plume. Guy's awesome. And he's helped me with my portfolio. And it's pretty extensive now. It's good. It's a good portfolio. Ringside with Nino on Nino'sCorner.tv is Wednesday the 10th. Folks, my dad's coming home. My dad's coming home. It's going to be an uphill battle, but my dad is coming home in the next few days. We got nurses and everyone ready to take him in. We got all these contraptions and devices in his bedroom. It's crazy. My dad's going to be 91, so it looks as of right now that he'll see his 91st birthday. Thank God. The little bit of time I have with him, thank you. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for the prayers. Also, I went to the P.O. box, and I got this. I've been checking my P.O. box. I got this really cool cup someone sent me, champ on it. That's pretty cool. I'm using it today. Thank you for this gift. And I got a lot more boxes I gotta open up. So Nino'sCorner.tv's fire. Ringside with Nino, Wednesday the 10th. 50% off still. I'm still doing it. 50% off all annuals, all new annuals, all the new annuals, 50% off. Sancho Claus is in the house. Also, folks, Nino'sCorner.tv, Joshua Reed is up there. Wano Saban. Also, he's going to be the general in the general's tent and on December 26th, 5 p.m. Ask him whatever question. Remember, even the general's tent is 50% off on an annual right now. If you don't want to sign up for the general's tent annual, you can do a major's tent. Stuart Swerdlow's up there. I'm in close contact with him. He's getting a lot of briefings on what's going on, and it's pretty incredible. And Juan, during the general's tent, I got some information on where Juan's going to be during that time, and it has to do with Venezuela. So you're going to be front and center. You're going to have a front row seat in some of the action. So get ready for that one. That general's tent is going to be awesome. Everett Triplet's coming on, talking about EMPs. The Ghost is coming back on today. Daniel Brinkley's coming back on. And without further ado, folks, you might want to turn it down or turn it up, baby. Yeah. Coming at you live from the apocalypse, folks. Yeah. All right, let's get crazy today. Yeah. All right, so got to do that in the morning. Got to wake yourself up a little bit. You know, at least I'm entertaining. At least I'm entertaining. So targets in focus. Trump's Obama accusations are going viral. He's going ham on Truth Social. And China and the Pope give very stern warnings. And I'm going to talk to SG about this. China and the Pope have issued a very stern warnings against Trump striking Venezuela, and that could be why things right now, why Maduro's getting a little brave. Does he have reinforcements? Well, you know the global order is behind Venezuela. So this is going to get interesting. The Pope warns Trump not to strike Venezuela and to find other diplomatic means. The Pope's role is now very evident and obvious to all of us. He's a global world puppet. That's what he is. Defy and speak out against Trump at his every move. That's what this guy is doing. He's the opposition against Trump. Welcome to the empire from the dark side. I watched Return of the Jedi last night, and I forgot like how good of a movie that really is. I did see some Mandela effect stuff in there. But Return of the Jedi, I mean, that's basically the world we're in right now at a galactic level. Will Trump listen to this globalist master or puppet, really? A pope is just a puppet as well. Probably not. Probably not. Trump compulsively posts on Truth Social that Obama will face military tribunals. Not for nothing, but I think Trump now needs to start delivering on these posts. Now, I know everything's strategy. Everything needs to be done surgically, but you don't want to be the little boy that cried wolf all the time, right? At least that's my perspective on it. And I know he's trolling. I know he's the master troller, but I just think now we're getting close to the time that you need to start delivering. That's just me and my frustrations speaking, but I don't want him to sound like the little boy that cried wolf. That's just me. So Trump is now posting on Truth Social nonstop, signaling to military and calling Maduro a traitor to the narco terrorists, to the Tren de Aragua gang in Venezuela, basically fucking with their minds, folks, okay? So basically, they're reading this shit going, man, is he really working a deal with Trump? What's going on? I think Trump is trolling. He is the master troller, and that's where we're at in this. I'm going to get SG Anon's point of view as well. So he is the master troller. Venezuelan military officials and generals are now in panic and chaos, from what I'm hearing, not knowing what or who to believe. This is classic psychological warfare before the big game or before this goes kinetic. You better believe all the military officials are being monitored right now. That's what I'm hearing. I've had some good sources tell me that. Maduro is said to be constantly changing phones, beds, houses, vehicles, and most likely his underwear. Yeah, I had to throw that in there. You know what else is not surfacing? Senator Mark Kelly is now surfacing, not surfacing, is just now surfacing. Is Senator Mark Kelly, the seditious six, just admitted that President Trump never issued any illegal orders. Yeah, I'm guessing he's finding out he's in serious trouble now, huh, folks? So he couldn't identify the orders. The seditious six. There's the picture right there. Trump is and always has been a military operation at the highest level. These Democrats are starting to find out the hard way. All these cute little antics are going to pay off very handsomely for Trump. But first, China sends a warning to the U.S. China Foreign Ministry issued a stern warning to the United States, urging it to refrain from any military action against Venezuela. The statement comes amid heightened U.S. military deployments in the Caribbean, framed by Washington as counter-narcotics operations, but criticized by Beijing and Caracas as veiled threats to Venezuelan sovereignty. China is Venezuela's largest creditor, having extended over $60 billion in loans since 2007, largely backed by oil shipments. Chinese state-owned firms like CNPC and 𝗀𝗏𝗡, I think that's how you say it, 𝗀𝗏𝗡, control significant shares in Venezuelan oil fields. In 2025 alone, Venezuela supplied China with approximately 200,000 barrels of oil per day, despite U.S. sanctions disrupting the flow. China's position is deeply tied to its substantial economic stakes in Venezuela, making any instability a direct threat to Beijing's interests. Huh. Will Trump risk challenging China? And not just China. Let's talk about the Ukraine war for a second. Now, 𝗬𝗏 is on record saying that he's been briefed and it's got to be over by January 15th. Now, I leave that up for you all to decide on that. I don't know. I just bring these people on and they make the predictions or whatever, but I think he's got some credible intel. Russia-Ukraine peace deal falls apart. President Putin says Europe sabotaged a peace deal intentionally and warns if Europe wants a war with us and starts it, a situation may quickly arise where there is no one left for us to negotiate with. That's from Putin himself. So this is going to get interesting. So let's get on press for time. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me back, Nino. It's good to be here.
So Venezuela's Maduro has lost 2 allies in a week. China's making threats. The Pope is coming out and warning about an attack on Venezuela is not the right thing to do. Obviously, this goes against the globalist agenda. SG, that's just the best way I could kick it off right now. Where do you want to come in on this?
My gosh, Nino, there's a few different angles that we could come in on this particular issue. And I know that, there's a lot of people out there right now in the MAGA America First crowd that are having a bit of their faith and a bit of their tolerance and patience tested as we look at shaking out the intelligence community infestation around the world during this second publicly visible Trump presidency. But that is, in fact, what's happening. And South America has long been an intelligence community and high money elitist playground for a very long time. It's also been an epicenter of significant amounts of human and biological material trafficking. It's been an epicenter of significant amounts of organized weapons smuggling, to include biological weapons, to make those types of things. And that doesn't even begin to get into the usage of slavery and the mining operations and the resource harvesting operations, right up into the government pulpit and the capture of the judiciary inside all of these, well, not all, but most of these countries that have, most of them have a military dictatorship past of some kind. So when we look at that, and we appreciate that we're dealing with 60 years of rot here, this is not just about what Venezuela has recently done in recent history, although that's part of it. And I can tell your audience, as sure as they're listening today, that all of these situations going on with South America, the Caribbean, the human trafficking, Venezuela being a major component of some of that, all of that is going to tie back to the overthrow of the United States situation in 2020, and we'll put it at that. We'll leave it at that statement out there for the fluff tube crowd. But with respect to that, when we look at what's actually happening in the Caribbean, what do we see occurring? We see the movement arms, the logistical funnels, if you will, of these materials, whether they're humans, whether they're weaponry, whether they're drugs, other agents, things of that nature, being completely taken out or neutralized inside those international waterways. We're also seeing airspace interrupted just in recent days. We're seeing a scramble on the ground inside the nation of Venezuela, which forces a sort of a highlighting of patriots versus traitors. And I have to remind your audience that, President Maduro, for as much as we could talk about this particular man as being the antithesis of those good and right and liberty-loving things in the world, and I think there's a lot of evidence to show that, this is an individual who I believe was given the Riot Act 2019 to 2020 timeframe and eventually capitulated to some sort of broader angle on getting that particular infestation removed from his country and that entire group of people, because they've not had free representative government in Venezuela, really truly free, since the 1960s, 70s era. If we remember back to early 2021, President Maduro actually was photographed around the same time that President Trump was photographed with a red folder, holding a red folder of his own. And that was only a few months after we had seen folder pictures coming out from the DPRK and from Moscow. So when we look at what's actually happening here, you've got a constellation of forces on the ground that are applying pressure to what? They're applying pressure to a criminal underbelly that is comprised of a large constellation of government, private, and publicly interested groups. And that entire constellation, that entire blob, if you will, on the ground in Venezuela and in those neighboring countries, because all of those funnels are sort of interconnected cross-border in the South American continent, they're sort of having to scramble and figure out how they're going to respond. It's like you mentioned Star Wars in the pre-show. It's like the scene from the episode 4 in the garbage compactor where they don't really know how they're going to get out and they're being pressed against the wall, and then some sort of Deus Ex comes, but there's not a Deus Ex coming for the enemies of humanity in South America this time.
SG also, you know, they have a close ally in Cuba, but what I've been told is Cuba actually controls Venezuela. Am I right in saying that?
Not so much controls, but it's sort of like two sides of the same coin, if you will. And both sides are necessary to turn the key, to turn the wheel of that criminal underbelly in the Caribbean basin and ensure that things like the movement of agents, people, material, weapons, and stuff like that actually has a causeway that allows it to both springboard and then eventually arrive at another place. Cuba is obviously much closer to the United States of America. You could sail westerly from Cuba and end up in Mexico relatively quickly, and you don't really have to get into U.S. territorial waters in order to do that. There's also the jumping off point on the eastern side of the Cuban island where you can go into a whole host of islands right there, sort of off in that Bahamas and Greater Bahamas area, the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. And of course, those islands then become, you know, sort of this long trickle down the far side of the Eastern Caribbean. And that area of the world, sort of separately from the conversation we were having just a moment ago, but it ties back in some regards. Those islands that sort of make up the broader border of what is now the current Caribbean basin, they have a long history, Nino, of disappearances, of human sacrificial rituals, of things that are extremely concerning and that you would sort of gawk at and dismiss off as perhaps not true or perhaps, you know, really pushes the boundaries of reality. But there's actually a long history in some of the cultures on a few of those islands. They understand that these things have gone on for a very long time. And in the last 150 to 250 years or so, a lot of those practices have been incorporated into this broader mercantilism that the intelligence community and what we would call the deep state, you know, occultist blob in control of the Western world at the present moment actually married with one another over the last 200 years.
So I've been told that their communications are being monitored. Generals and military officials, all of them are scared. They're panicked. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that, because Maduro is reportedly rotating beds, cell phones, underwear, and he plans to outlast Trump. So he has to have some kind of game plan going forward now where he feels like, you know what, I may not win this war, but I'll outlast him up until the election of 2028, put mud all over Trump's face. So basically all he's got to do is try to stay alive, stay relevant, and make Trump look really bad until he can get his reinforcements from, I don't know what, China, other countries. So basically just make this a slop job, right?
Well, it's interesting. That would be the takeaway, I think, if when we look at the current media landscape and the information warfare that's sort of being presented out there and the rhetoric from all these different sides. But I think I would run with even a different conclusion on that, Nino. I'm looking at Maduro as a sort of like a Judas goat in a lot of ways. This is an individual who I think is going to flip the coin, if you will, or turn on the other side or turn the other cheek, whatever expression you want to use with that, at a critical moment where the tensions seem, you know, really very high, where perhaps some sort of action is imminent, where something is in motion, and that's the opportunity where we see some sort of a step down or a step away. And I would not be surprised to see that coming, and I could see Maduro actually hitching a ride out of the country for Moscow in order to make that particular situation happen. What is very, very interesting with all of this, though, and I want to tie this into this discussion about what happens with Maduro in the immediate future. President Trump put out about 22, 23 hours ago now a post on his Truth Social account that discussed that Maduro had, quote unquote, surrendered to Trump. And in this short video, it basically shows President Maduro admitting on video that the Biden administration asked Maduro to send certain criminal enterprises and certain criminal activities into the interior of the United States of America. If something like that is proven out to thus be true, the obvious next step question is, how does that tie into the broader corruption investigations that we've already been told are underway and have been underway since the early days of this current Trump administration? How is that tying into those broad investigations at DOJ? John Solomon's reported on those investigations tying back to the auto pin scandal, tying back to foreign Chinese influence and corruption between the Biden family and the Chinese mafia, for example, or individuals in Chinese government associated with the Chinese mafia. We've seen bank accounts unearthed through the House Oversight Committee investigations just in the last 2 years. Now we have the head of state of a South American country known for its intelligence community playground. Venezuela is essentially the Ukraine light, if you will, of the Western world. And that particular country the head of state of that particular country is now coming out and saying, well, actually, it was the prior president or the prior commander-in-chief that immediately before this one was asking us to do these activities that we're now being threatened with a war over. So I could absolutely see this steamrolling into election issues going back to 2020. I could see this steamrolling into the funding of NGOs and the various U.S.-based NGOs and 501c3 and C4 organizations that have participated in the logistics, the equipment, the transportation, the communication, all of these different things helping to set up these organized criminal enterprises as they come into the United States. This is actually an incredible move in the irregular warfare landscape, because again, you're applying that pressure in such a way that these criminal entities that have really controlled politics in South America for the last half century with impunity, now they're scrambling because they don't know what they're going to be doing when Caracas leaves all of them holding the bag.
You know, I think Maduro is going to stay and fight. It would be wiser for him. He's been given the ultimatum. But Venezuela, it says here, Venezuela spotted him for the first time in days, ending flight speculation. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro appeared in public Sunday for the first time in 5 days, temporarily putting an end to speculation that he had fled the country following a reported ultimatum from President Trump to leave or else. Maduro, 63, presented prizes and gave remarks at an annual coffee awards ceremony in the eastern part of the capital, Caracas, CNN has reported. At one point leading a chant that Venezuela's economy was indestructible, untouchable, and unbeatable. So it seems to me, you know, I don't know. I think he knows he's a dead man either way, and I think he might stay in the fight here. And also it says Pope Leo urges U.S. not to attempt military ouster of Venezuelan Maduro. Aboard the papal flight, I guess I should say papal flight, the Pope's flight, let's just say, Pope Leo urged U.S. President Donald Trump's administration on Tuesday not to try to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro using military force. Leo, the first U.S. Pope, said it would be better to attempt dialogue or impose economic pressure on Venezuela if Washington wants to pursue change there. You know what I say? You know what I say we should do? I don't know. Let's oust the Pope. What do you say, folks? That's what I think that should happen. Just call me crazy. That's where all the world problems stem from in the first place, is this guy right here. The people behind him, the Vatican. Let's go surround the Vatican. What do you say? What do you think, SG?
Well, I think it's very interesting that you're seeing the Vatican getting involved in all of this. You know, Nino, when we look at the history of the Vatican, and I'm going to have to be really careful with my rhetoric on this angle of the discussion here for FluffTube.
But remember, we're on the fluffy side.
when we look at the history of the Vatican's involvement in politics, where does the Vatican typically intersect with the political discussion? It typically intersects with the political discussion where a serious level of criminality has been committed in a certain sphere or a certain region of influence. And I'm going to refer the audience to a meeting that the former Pope Francis was allegedly caught at during the month of June in 2019, I believe it was, caught at by Interpol, and at the very least, we believe that he was detained for questioning. And I'm gonna let the audience sort of run with that, because I can't talk too much more about that without angering the FluffTube algorithmic masters out there. Yeah. But with respect to the Vatican's involvement in the current discussion with what's happening in South America, we were just talking a minute ago about the constellation of background forces that exist on the ground in South America. What are the largest entities on Earth that are involved in organized human smuggling, child and human trafficking, and other deeper levels of criminality that spin off from that particular cesspool? So, you know, those entities are all private corporations, essentially. Private companies. You do have some government, nation state level actors that are involved in that, but most of that is sort of private corporation because of the cross-border facilitation that is necessary for some of that. It's one of the reasons you have, you know, the vast amount of the Western world's pharmaceutical R&D corporations actually headquartered and anchored physically in Eastern Europe, because you have a much more readily available biological supply there based out of the criminal underbelly of that area of the world. The same is true to a lighter degree of what's going on in South America. You've got significant amounts of we'll just call it disappearing that happens there every year. You've got significant amounts of criminality that's been unearthed in organized investigations, even tying back in recent days to the Ecuadorian Congress, if I'm not mistaken. A number of individuals inside the Ecuadorian or Peruvian Congress, I forget which one it was, but one of the two of them showcased out and got caught up in a number of different investigations into corruption that involved human smuggling and human trafficking. So when we've got something like that, where there's a spiritual angle, I would characterize it with what's going on in South America, it's not surprising to see the Vatican coming out in defense of what it has always come out for. Because when we look at the Vatican itself, the Vatican is an international city-state that is impugned essentially from most international diplomatic law. It has been rumored, certainly, and in some cases been proven out through various admissions, but certainly rumored to contain vast archives of hidden information, hidden knowledge, and hidden wealth that has been accumulated by the broader Apostolic Catholic Church over the last 1,500 to 2,000 years. And again, some of this stuff sort of takes some time to come out into the public for and be realized. Other parts have actually been admitted to, where we've seen different gold exchanges that were struck. We've seen different agreements that were published by the Vatican, such as the Vatican bankruptcy announcement that came out a few years ago, sort of highlighting the fact that there had been a monetary change there. But it doesn't surprise me, I guess, is the long answer to your question, that we're seeing the current Pope, who really at the end of the day is more of a centrist or more of a progressive leaning Pope than I think a lot of individuals were expecting coming out of the United States of America. But we're seeing that current Pope in on this particular discussion, in my opinion, because there's a lot more going on with the monetary and the human component happening in South America than what we're being told in the news.
You know, 𝗬𝗫𝗠cie, Claudia Sheinbaum, the Pope, all installed, right? All of them were installed. But you know things are getting real, folks, when Kristi Noem comes out and posts on X, I just met with the president. I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them, not one. So what she's saying here also, folks, is I want to get your opinion on this, SG. If I was anyone planning a vacation to Mexico, anywhere in South America or below the southern border, I would think twice at such a time as now, because it's gonna get hot. And folks, if you're an American anywhere past the southern border, below the southern border, you better watch your six. Do you agree with me, SG?
I absolutely do. I think that we've only just begun seeing the pressure that will get applied to the Western Hemisphere writ large before this process is over. Because again, there has been a multi-state assault that has been happening on the United States of America, and frankly on Canada as well, although the Canadians have been much more inviting of it than the United States. But there has been a multi-state, multi-hemispheric assault happening in this particular hemisphere. And really, when we look at the nations that are south of Mexico and south of the U.S. southern border, certainly down into the Central and South American territory, a lot of those states have sort of been rump actors, if you will, invalids in this broader process of manipulation over the last 50 to 60 years. And so now, with the increased pressure in the Caribbean, I'm expecting that to absolutely come to Central America before too long. We've seen discussions flying off of President Trump's Truth Social with, pertaining to the presidential cycles. I think it was in Honduras and in Nicaragua. We've seen President Trump offer to assist the Mexican president with, putting the cartels under sort of a military assault, if you will, and allowing the U.S. military to do that on their soil. The Mexican president, of course, responded, no, we don't need that. But now we're seeing reports that Claudia Sheinbaum has actually been tied to direct financial cooperation with some of these cartels on the ground, which would sort of remove the ability to negotiate with that individual as the head of state of a country and place them as the primary antagonist, if you will, in what is nothing less than a militarized assault on the United States. I'm expecting the U.S. southern border to become a significantly heated up area as we go through the winter months and into early 2026. And we have to keep in mind, all of these things are happening in the Western world and in our hemisphere alone. And we're not even looking at the massive amounts of financial and systemic and political changes that are happening at the exact same time all around the rest of the planet, right? You're seeing an expansion of war preparations in the Latvian country, in the Baltic states, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. You're seeing Finland's rhetoric getting more aggressive towards Russia. You're seeing the Ukrainian population finally beginning to step up and come public really into the broader online space and saying, no, this is ridiculous. We're being terrorized by an illegitimate dictator who can't negotiate on behalf of anyone. You're seeing the Parisian 𝗬𝗓𝗶𝗯𝗄 accused by one of the largest journalists in the Western world of an out-and-out assassination plot. These types of things happening all at the same time are not by accident. This is a serious season of desperation for our opponents. The reckoning really is here, and it's not going to stop anytime soon.
So I'm going to tie this together just for a second so people understand what time it is here in America. So we know that Afghan national in Fort Worth, Texas, has been federally charged with threatening to build a bomb and kill Americans. The U.S. attorney announces. So that's another guy. You got the Afghan refugee that shot the 2 National Guardsmen. Now you got a guy planning to put a bomb. You got the seditious six saying, hey, you don't need to obey orders. That's how hot it is right now. And as all this is transpiring and happening, you got Trump posting hundreds of times an hour in overnight Truth Social spree. President Donald Trump went on a bizarre Truth Social posting binge Monday night, as pointed out by many media experts, including Vaughn Sterling, executive producer of The Source with Caitlin Collins on CNN, who wondered what was going on last night. CNN political reporter Aaron Blake posted one of the president's unhinged post, noting Trump last night promoted a post that guaranteed Barack Obama will face a military. Media's Touch co-founder Ben Macias posted screenshots of Trump's Truth Social saying Trump has made approximately 400 posts in the past hour, which include posts like this. Now, what's your thoughts on this, SG? I mean, I've said I don't want him to sound like the boy that's crying wolf, but where there's smoke, there's fire, man. And you agree with me on this. It's coming, correct?
There we go. Sorry, I had to monkey with my mic there for just a moment.
Okay.
But it absolutely is coming. And I want to highlight, Nino, for the audience out there, when you're not able to show your entire loaf of bread because you need a certain component of the publicly visible space to not be readily apparent, what allows for you to continue to understand that the bread itself is still baking or is still a real thing? Well, breadcrumbs is what allows that. It's the evidence of a broader thing. And so what you're seeing from President Trump periodically throughout the entirety of this year, I think we're now at the 3rd instance in about a 9-month period of time where he has posted something about the former president, Obama, and a military commissioner or military for some reason or another. That is the maintenance of structural integrity. What you have going on is a reminder consistent with this broader information warfare plan that's going on, this broader game really that's being played. Now I don't like the expression game, but it really is in some ways a back and forth that is gamesmanship in nature. But the marbles are for everything, right? It's for the entirety of human destiny. It's for world peace. It's for mastery of our financial system. It's for control of our elections. It's for ending of certain criminality. It's for returning the decentralization of power. I mean, it's really for everything. But at the end of the day, that game that's being played out at those very, very high levels. And as we've seen confirmed by Moscow by way of a presidential envoy called 𝗀𝗂𝗋𝗄 over the last 3 to 5 months, that is what President Trump has done there is consistent with the idea that this is going to flip really in a big way on their heads, just as we've come to understand that this game is going to end up. When we're looking at things like the Army-Navy comms that you and I talked about a couple of years ago, I think it was early December, the Army-Navy football game and the giant queue that was stuck right in the middle of the opening 1.5 seconds of that. When we look at what's happening with President Trump's relentless highlighting that he is Q+ and he's putting it on Truth Social, it's not hard to see. It's very out there. It's very apparent. You have an envoy from Moscow taking those posts, screenshotting them manually on his end, posting them to his own profile on X, which has garnered a significant reach now in the Western world media space as a result of that. when we look at this, it is a reminder that all roads are going to lead back to a couple of things. The Russiagate situation, which began really in 2016 and immediately prior, late 2015, with some of the coordinated operations that happened inside CIA, and then the events of 2020, which are still a little bit sensitive to talk about deeply on this platform. But when those dovetail together and we see how focalized the treason really was in its planning and execution, and the fact that the broad landscape was the part that took so much time to get under control, but the concentrated group of actual control and power at the top being so focalized and so small, that's going to be, I think, the thing that's going to blow away people the most. It did not take a lot of people to do the things that have been done between 2016 and now, but it did take some very evil people with a lot of other people underneath them whose paychecks relied on complying or not.
So what people need to also understand here, folks, is that you're being exposed to the lawfare, how easily it's manipulated by people in the system, by the deep state, such as, let's talk about James Comey for a second. So James Comey, the lawsuit from James Comey's friend, could disrupt plans to re-indict the former FBI director. James Comey friend and former lawyer Daniel Richmond is suing the Justice Department over evidence gathered from him years ago that was used in the recently dismissed criminal case against Comey, which could disrupt the Trump administration's imminent plans to re-indict the former FBI director. Very slick, very clever moves here, folks. But that's not good. That's why this needs to go military. Correct, SG?
I take no pleasure in saying that phrase lightly, but in many ways, Nino, that is what you're left with. When a judiciary is defunct and cannot be relied on to function as the check and balance in any system, whether it's our system or the British system or the European system, any system at all, when the court of record in that system is no longer capable of operating as a balancing mechanism, then there has to be something that restores balance. And historically, in the Western world, that something has been a military commission. And it's very interesting when you look at the fact that there's a couple of drops posted by a very special entity online that your audience is going to be very familiar with. And they discuss this individual by name. And there's a particular drop that has the words James Comey treason. And then it has those words written down, I guess the way this is best formatted. That's the word I'm looking for. It has them formatted in a gigantic visual image of a tower inside the particular drop itself. And down the middle of the tower is a sort of like a red highlight, if you will. So what you've got there, in my opinion, and when we look at Robert Mueller and his connection back to 9/11, and we look at James Comey and where he was at in the lead up to September 11, 2001 in I believe it was the attorney's office, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Eastern Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, or the FBI's office. I forget which one it was. But when we look at that particular association, and then that coming back to that reference of that 9/11 overlap, I'm looking at someone like Comey and someone like Fauci and other individuals, of course, other individuals associated with that group, the Newlands, the Cheneys that are associated with the arms dealing and smuggling, the McCains. All of these individuals are sort of the ones that were actually physically and kinetically involved, is what I'm trying to say, in the selling out and the making and levying of war against the United States of America. And so in order to get to those individuals and get them the proper level of justice that really is truly needed for the level of criminality they've been getting away with, we have to see a judiciary go defunct in some regards on the discussions related back to them, because there has to be a punishment, or excuse me, there has to be a crime that has not yet had a punishment metered out.
SG, thank you for your time. I'll let you go right now, but SG, don't forget, don't sign out. Leave your window open so we can download this program. So stay on. Keep the window open, okay, SG?
Sounds good, Nino. God bless all.
All right. Thank you, SG, for joining us. Folks, U.S. Navy's Doomsday aircraft vanishes over the Atlantic on mysterious mission. A Boeing E-6B Mercury, operated by the U.S. Navy, one of the service's airborne nuclear command posts, commonly known as the Doomsday plane, disappeared from civilian flight tracking platforms Friday morning while operating over the Atlantic Ocean, according to the tracking data. So, folks, look, the reason I'm saying this is, obviously, I think it's just disappeared off radar, but I'm having Ashton Forbes on. I'm going to be premiering the video tomorrow. It's pre-recorded. Ashton Forbes is coming on the platform tomorrow. It'll be on tomorrow on YouTube, talking about the Malaysian flight. Now, you know, Ashton Forbes is an expert on the disappearance of the Malaysia flight. Obviously, you've seen the video where the orbs surround it and then circle it, and then pow, it disappears. You see a flash in the sky, plane disappears, and nobody knows where it went. Dimensional portal, most likely. Yes, we are dealing with that kind of technology, which tells me that the weaponry that we're using now is so high tech that we could really believe. I'm telling you right now, folks, anything can happen. We're dealing with, there it is right there, the Malaysian flight. Folks, the way this thing disappeared, orbs encircled it, went through a flash of light, and it was gone. It was documented by a drone watching it. There it is right there. Now, I'm just saying, did the Doomsday plane just go off radar, or did something like this happen to the Doomsday plane? Boom, there's a flashlight. Ashton Forbes is going to be on tomorrow to talk more about this. I'll be premiering the video. It's an awesome, awesome podcast. Putin meets with Witkoff and Kushner for nearly 5 hours. The two sides did not reach any specific compromises, and aide to President Vladimir Putin said, as the United States pushes a plan to end the war in Ukraine now. You all heard it the same way I did. Stuart Swerdlow said okay, I hate predictions. I especially hate them on my channel, but it's interesting and it piques my interest. But he says January 15th, the war has to end. He was right about the government shutdown. Let's see if he's right about this. We'll see. President Vladimir Putin of Russia held talks for nearly 5 hours late Tuesday with Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, negotiating with the two U.S. emissaries as Washington pushed for an end to Russia's war against Ukraine. Now, who stands to benefit from the end of the war? Only Putin. Zelensky needs this war to continue. That's the only way he's going to stay alive. And NATO needs this war. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Bongino slams hit piece alleging FBI rattled his ship under Patel. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino took to New York Post writer Miranda Devine to the woodshed Monday following a hit piece criticizing the agencies based on a memo filed by former and active duty special agents and analysts. Deep State Devine strikes again, Bongino wrote on X Monday evening, pointing out Devine's report cites disgruntled old guard agents upset that their system has been disrupted. Deep State Devine strikes again. Miranda loves attacking our reform agenda with gossipy anecdotes from disgruntled former employees because she's upset that her reporting keeps falling apart under scrutiny. You can always count on Miranda for a timed hit piece when the director and I make big changes. Miranda prefers the old guard. I don't. Full steam ahead. What's your all's thoughts on how Kash Patel is running the FBI right now? Put it in the comments down below. Let me know what you all think. People are 50-50 on this. I see a lot of people that do not like Kash Patel and a lot of people that give him the thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I want to see it, actually. Do you all give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I don't even know if you could do a thumbs down on YouTube anymore. I'm not sure about that, but Newsom 2028, baby. Yeah. Hollywood donors start lining up behind expected White House bid. He's a fighter. That's what we need right now. This is what they're saying about Newsom. Exclusive. Later this week, Gavin Newsom will once again command a portion of the national spotlight. Set as a marquee interview for the New York Times annual Deal Book Summit, the California governor is attracting a lot of big league attention of late all across the nation. Back on the West Coast and in Hollywood in particular, the Donald Trump battling Newsom is also increasingly viewed as ready for his close-up as a favorite, intentional, influential, and deep-pocketed industry donors for the 2028 White House race. Remember, I told you I have people on the border right now, boots on the ground, saying they're waiting for Newsom to get in or a rhino so they can bombard the border, Biden 2.0. Folks, I'm not lying about this. They are still being shipped in caravans, showing up at the border, ready to invade in 2028. That's the way it's going. I'm telling you the truth. I got people on the border. I'm on the border. I hear things. I know things. And nothing stopped. It stopped here, but they're still coming into Mexico. So they are ready to ransack America in 2028. You better believe it. Folks, I just want to say I really appreciate all the prayers. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate everyone who comes on my platform. You guys keep me going. You guys keep me sober. Believe me when I tell you, you keep me sober. I'm coming on 6 years sober, December 26th. I'll be 6 years sober from alcohol. Everything else I stopped about 3.5, 4 years ago. And I'll tell you that it's been the biggest gift ever given to me that I've given myself. And I really hope some of you do the same. I've always said, make a statement. Make a statement. If you want to quit the pills, you want to quit the lines, flush it down the toilet. Just flush it. Make a statement. Burn it out back and put that imprint in your mind. We all got vices. We all got problems. I get it. But I'm telling you, folks, sobriety is the way to go, man. And if I can do it, I promise you, any of you can do it. I was Sancho, okay? I was fucking crazy. So I'm just telling you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. In what the fuck news, Russian couple watched each other being tortured to death. Over 380 million in crypto. A convicted Russian cryptocurrency fraudster and his wife watched each other being tortured to death in a desert. It's probably around here in El Paso. Oh, no, in the United Arab Emirates, after their kidnappers failed to extract 380 million from their accounts. It was reported. Roman Novak and his wife Anna were last seen on October 2nd after being lured to the resort of Ħadda, I guess that's how you say it, Ħadda, 80 miles outside of Dubai, by criminals posing as potential investors. So this happened in Dubai, man. Damn. Police dug up a 500 by 500 meter stretch of desert in the Hajar Mountains near the border of Oman, where their mobile phones were last detected, to recover the remains more than a month later. Since then, further details about the fate of the couple have been reported by Russian media. Before, Roman and Anna were tortured, to force them to give up the access codes to their cryptocurrency wallets. But they were empty. Metro has decided not to share the details surrounding the torture methods because of how gruesome they are. Yeah, they're bad. Their bodies were then packed in thick polyethylene bags and doused with chemicals, strong solvents to speed up the decomposition process and destroy DNA evidence. An investigation was launched after the pair's family alerted police in Dubai that they had gone missing and were assumed to have been kidnapped. Roman was sentenced to 6 years in prison in Russia for large-scale fraud in 2020. After being granted parole, he left for the UAE, where he launched a crypto app called 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗹, for which he reportedly raised investment worth $380 million before allegedly defrauding investors. Man, oh man, you don't fuck around with the Russians, do you? I don't know. Do you think it was the Russians, or do you think it was a I don't know. Interesting times we're living in, folks. Nothing's off limits. Gotta tell you. Alex, are you there?
Hey, Nino.
Do you have any super tests today? I see 2.
Yeah, we got about 6 or so here.
Let's do it. Beverly Adams, 1300. Thanks, Nino. We'll connect soon for the hard swing right. Yes, I forgot about you. I'm sorry. Put my mom in the nursing home. Kool-Aid and induced dementia. Yep. Still working through all that. You and so many get it. Just got to do what we got to do. Love them till they go home. Right. I know. Whatever little time I have left with my dad, it's he's my hero, man. I don't know how to say it. It's like I'm losing my Superman. I can't. The guy that was with me for every fight is just this is really like I don't know what's folks. My whole paradigm's crashing. It's just I am really beat up over this. But I got some extra time with him. 𝗬𝗏𝗋𝗋.
Lucia Robertson.
Okay, what is it?
I think Lucia Robertson.
Lucia or Lucero? Lucero. Okay, whatever. Lucia Robertson. Damn, dude, you're good. Hey, yo, super sticker. Thank you. Hey, I don't read too good sometimes, you know. Kelly Benesky. I don't know if it's my eyesight or if my brain just don't work so fast. Kelly Benesky 576. Thank you. Who else? Samajalan 23 gets drunk at a 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗍 liquor store, trashes place, and passes out on the bathroom floor. Oh yeah. Have Alex pull up the article. Have you seen this, Alex? The raccoon.
No, I
yeah,
haven't seen it.
Dude. He gets drunk in a convenience store, passes out in the bathroom next to the toilet, dude. You can't make this shit up. It's a raccoon. When you find it, just throw it up there real quick. It's funny as hell. I put this up on my ex actually. But yeah, raccoon passes out. There it is. Let's see.
There it is. Yeah.
Raccoon gets drunk at Ashland ABC. Look at this thing, dude. he destroys the store, gets drunk on liquor, and then passes out next to the toilet. I love that animal. I love raccoons. You know, we have them out here in El Paso. They're in the desert too, man. It's weird.
Oh, you do have them there?
Yeah, we got some raccoons out here. You'll see them get hit by a car every now and then. But you know what's weird? You would think we'd have armadillos, but we don't. We have raccoons. A lot of raccoons out here.
Oh.
Kelly Ray 982. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Elsa Clark 7231. Swirlo talks about getting info from NASA. Not sure if that's good. Do you? Look, I don't believe in NASA at all. And me personally, I was going to bring this up. I respect Stuart Swirlo's intel 100%. I do. We'll see what happens next year, right? We'll all see, but I think this 3i Atlas is bullshit. I think it's the fucking deep state card, and I don't believe any of it. And the more I look into space, the more I look into, and I'm not saying flat Earth, but I know we're not on a round ball spinning, hurling through space. There's just so many things wrong with this. I think the Dragon rockets from Elon Musk, what he's trying to do is pierce through the firmament. All right, call me crazy. I don't care. That's what I think. That's what I think this is. And they need NASA to keep perpetuating a lie on space. It's bullshit. I think it's all bullshit. And the more I look into this, and the more I look into the Luciferian agenda, that's what I see. Call me crazy, whatever. That's just how I see it. Future miracle. Keep up the good work, Black Sheep. Faith over fear. Always Patriots. Agreed. Thank you so much. Kelly Paneski, super sticker. Thank you so much, Kelly.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, Alex, thanks for joining once again. Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday today. So back here Friday.
Right. Yeah, and then we got a big podcast with John Pounders coming up next week, right? So that's going to be.
Oh, yeah. Is that next week or is that this Friday?
Is it this Friday? I don't remember.
No, did you say?
I think it's this Friday. Is it
this Friday? Okay.
I think it is this Friday. Yeah. All right, folks. All right, that's it. We're out of here.
All right. See everyone.
And the new heavyweight champion of podcasting and the black sheep of broadcasting, baby. Bam!